You have entered the Vault of Shadows. I am its keeper, Dave. Welcome, kids, to the Vault of Shadows. And I want to start with a quote from the horror writer, very classic horror writer, well-known, H.P. Lovecraft. He has, I'm paraphrasing, a quote that's pretty well known in horror literature circles. And that quote is the following: "The strongest and oldest emotion of humanity is fear. And the strongest and oldest fear is fear of the unknown." And I agree with Mr. Lovecraft, because I personally believe that is the greatest fear that we really have. So you could say, oh, I'm afraid of death, I'm afraid of whatever it might be. They're all really forms, variations of the unknown. Now, my favorite horror movie of all time, John Carpenter's Halloween, is rooted in a fear of the unknown. You have a 6-year-old child, right? There's no indication in that film, and if you ignore all the stupid sequels, as I do, then the story stands on its own perfectly. This is a normal 6-year-old kid. We have no indications that he's anything else. This isn't a stupid remake where he's a serial killer, he's torturing animals and all this crap, and he's abused. He's just a normal kid, but he gets he's out for some reason, by the way, across the street, and this is not about Halloween. But he's across the street, comes out from behind a tree, stalk watching his sister, gets the knife, puts the mask on, and kills her. We don't know what Michael Myers is. We don't know why he does what he does. He is the epitome of the unknown. He is the boogeyman. And that is a primal, and I believe universal, and I also believe eternal, insofar as human beings exist, fear that we all have, we all share. One of my favorite horror movies that ties into that in a very different way, but is still very much working with all of that, is a movie that in recent years, I should say, has been much derided. I don't really understand why. I have some theories, but we're not going to waste time on those, and that's the Blair Witch Project. In many ways, as Halloween, as we just talked about it, that movie is all about the fear of the unknown. We never see what it is that ultimately happens to these three people, right? We never see what happens to them. We have glimpses, not even really glimpses, but we have suggestions through their reactions. And I want to talk briefly about the Blair Witch Project and why I think if you've never seen it, or if it's been many years, perhaps since the theater experience, maybe you haven't watched it, why you should give it another chance. The Blair Witch Project, first of all, was a brilliant idea, and it was brilliantly executed, and it was well executed. So you had these three actors who are really not sure what's going to go on. There's some light scripting, but their reactions are real, because a lot of the things happening are happening to them. They don't know they're going to happen. And we see that on the camera. We see that in their reactions. They're not acting, they're really reacting. But there's also some really solid acting when they are acting, because there is some of that. And what's so effective to me is, now, I think a big part of it too is the woods. If you don't live somewhere where you've ever been in the woods, especially at night, well, then you don't really, I think you could still identify with the characters, but I myself, when I first saw the Blair Witch Project, it called to mind every time that I had been in the woods at night, or even just during the day when it was cloudy. And if you go far enough into the woods, it's not unlike when you are on a float by the beach, and you lose track and you're not paying attention and you look and you can't see the beach. If that's ever happened to you, that's pretty terrifying. And that's the same thing. You become awash into the middle of this ocean of trees and of teeming with life and mystery. And it's horrifying. It's also beautiful. I love to go out in the woods and hike and all this, but mainly when I was alive. I don't get around doing that much more anywhere. I'm pretty much confined here to the vault. But that was one of the big things with the Blair Witch Project that was so effective. The other thing, kids, and I'll be honest, I did not really know that it was a fake movie. And by fake movie, I mean a fictional movie. I thought it was real, because back then, sci-fi was spelled correctly, S-C-I-F-I, the network. And I caught the Curse of the Blair Witch Project one day, and I watched it, and I thought, holy crow, this is real. This happened to these kids, and this footage that's going to be in the movies, it's really happened. So I didn't actually think, I said, I am going to go see it. I don't think it's going to be scary, because it's just footage. Like, it's not a movie, so there's not going to be any kind of, fake scares. Little did I know just how horrifying it could be, and was horrifying. Seeing in theaters the lack of a score, the performances, the way that things were filmed and shot. In fact, by not only the directors who gave direction to Heather and the guys, but also how they chose to do things, frame shots and all this. And then the mystery. Never see what it is that is tormenting. You hear many things. They talk about many things. They react to many things, but we don't see what they are, I should say. And we don't see at the end what really happens either. And it's just haunting and terrifying, and it works. It's very much plucking hard on the strings of that base primal fear of the unknown that we all have. I know people criticize it as boring and all this. I think that's more generational, etc. So if you've not given this film a chance because you heard all the hype, and you didn't interest you, and then people said it was boring and not scary, you've not seen it, give it a shot. Turn off all the lights. This is the perfect time because it takes place during October. I watch it every year in the month of October. It takes place in October. There's Halloween decor at the beginning of the film that factors into it, and they're going to look and research a witch. What more Halloween could you get, really? So I want to strongly encourage you to give it a shot. If you haven't, or perhaps it's been decades, give it a review. Watch it again. Now, we had a sequel called Book of Shadows. Didn't see it, from what I've heard. Not really great, but I do want to check it out eventually. It wasn't something, it didn't really further the story, so I didn't really have an interest in it. Then we had The Blair Witch. That came out several years ago, and oh boy, was that a big old stinking bad decision, kids. I just don't understand why you would even think you would even do anything remotely like that film that has already been done. Because not only did The Blair Witch happen, but the Blair Witch Project, but then it inspired all of these other films. So now you're going to try to make a sequel to that, and it's people going in the woods to do the same thing, essentially? What are you talking about? No. Big mistake. Then that movie, even worse, brought in oh, maybe it was extraterrestrial, and hey, there's missing time, and nah, come on. What do you that's just desperation. It reeks of desperation. Please. Didn't care about the characters. Had some effective scares here and there, but largely, big thumbs down. Terrible film. Now, no offense to the director or anything. It was kind of like just an awful, awful idea. What do you do with the Blair Witch Project? Well, first of all, I don't know that you need to do anything, okay? One of the other aspects that you see, because I believe that was real because of Curse of the Blair Witch, I saw nothing in it the way it was produced to believe it was fake. It was a faux documentary. And then the internet, to me, was new at the time. It was the late 1900s, right? So I had just gotten some internet access, and I was visiting the Blair Witch website. And if you know anything about it, you know how rich it was in lore, that they had done all of this building of lore, that if you read that, it only enhanced what was going to be happening. Now, I read it after I saw the film, but it only added to the story, and I wanted to see the movie again and again and again to catch more things, and it fit in different contexts. That led me to realize that this movie doesn't need a sequel, but I'll tell you what would be great is 2 sequels. And what I would do if I had any kind of influence, if I were, Myrick and Sanchez, what I'd love to see those guys do, the writers and directors of the Blair Witch Project, is go back, give us a reverse trilogy. So you have the first one takes place in the 90s, right? Go back then and do a prequel, show us what happens with Rustin Parr, all right, and the kids, and the Blair Witch Project, all that, the Blair Witch, rather. Show us that courtroom drama, horror, serial killer, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff there you could do, scary and courtroom drama. You don't see that much in horror films. That could be great. Then finish with the story of Ellie Kedward and show us what happened. Now, don't show everything, because one of the great things about the Blair Witch Project is we don't know if that was what caused these people to die. It could have been her, it, whatever. It could have been something else. But go back. Show us that, give us that, and you've got the potential for the witch trials and that iconography and all of that rich dramatic potential. That's what I want to see. So a reverse trilogy also. I don't know that anybody's done that. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Not that there's much left to the top of my head. But that is what I think we need to see, kids. And so if you haven't given the Blair Witch Project a try, give it a shot. It's the perfect time of year to watch it. And I would love to see you come back here and in the comments below, let me know what you think. If you've not seen it before, or it's been many years, does it affect you the way that it affects me? And I think it affected many people. That's why it was such a success, because it truly is terrifying. And it is a fear of the unknown. What we don't see is far more terrifying, most usually, I would say, than what we do see, because the power of the imagination will fire any will fire much brighter than anything that other people's imaginations can do for you. Thanks for watching, kids. Stay spooky.